Developing right now on Morning News Now, a wintry mess in the Midwest. Millions of people digging out after another big snowstorm, the third in just 1 week. Comes as airlines struggle to recover from days of weather delays and cancellations over the busy holiday weekend. Now the snowy storm system is charging toward the northeast. We're tracking its path so you can plan ahead. Also this morning, growing fallout and pushback over those deadly strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats from Venezuela. The White House now confirming U.S. forces did strike an alleged drug boat twice, but denying reports the order came from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
The strike was conducted in international waters and in accordance with the law of armed conflict. This administration has designated these narco-terrorists as foreign terrorist organizations. The president has a right to take them out if they are threatening the United States of America.
Now lawmakers on both sides of the aisle demanding answers. The latest from Washington. Plus a controversial procedure that some say could save lives. More people paying out of pocket for full-body MRI scans, even if they're perfectly healthy. Why some doctors are skeptical. And locking in. Some influencers no longer waiting until after the holidays to get fit. More on the challenge that's kind of like a year-end resolution and what it could do for your mental health. Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Tuesday. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. We start with that major winter storm clawing its way across the country. It could get even stronger as it targets the Northeast. The third winter storm in a week has dumped several inches of snow across parts of the Midwest. Parts of Missouri are digging out from roughly 10 inches of snow that fell near St. Louis overnight. The icy roads are proving too much for some drivers trying to navigate those slippery roadways, and crews are struggling to stay ahead of the storm, salting those roads and keeping them passable. The storm's also snarling travel plans for people who are still making their way home from Thanksgiving. Air travelers are stranded in airports yesterday, with more than 9,000 flights delayed and some nearly 600 canceled. Some schools already canceling class for the day. Now people along the East Coast are getting ready. Forecasters warn this system could develop into a bomb cyclone, bringing snow and gusty winds to the northernmost parts of the I-95 corridor. That would add to the snow that already fell over the weekend. It may only be early December, but folks are already bracing for what could be a long winter.
If we're starting now, I think we're going to get quite a bit of snow.
Trick is just layer up and hopefully get through it.
News meteorologist Angie Lassman will have your forecast in a moment. First, NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin has made her way to Scranton, Pennsylvania with the latest. Erin, good morning.
Hey there, good morning. We are bracing for the first snow of the season here in Scranton, Pennsylvania, with 3 to 6 inches in the forecast, set to strike at any moment. Part of that fast-moving storm that slammed the Midwest overnight with heavy snow sweeping across the Great Lakes. It's a storm system impacting more than 80 million Americans, and the conditions are treacherous out there. The roads slick with snow, causing collisions and gridlock on some highways in the Midwest, with snow crews also scrambling. Pennsylvania state officials told me they've been working tirelessly to prepare the roads for this very moment. And in New Jersey, the governor just declared a state of emergency for the northwestern part of the state, posting on X, starting early tomorrow morning, we anticipate snowfall, sleet, and freezing rain. I urge all drivers to exercise caution, remain alert, and follow all safety protocols. In Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York, some school districts have canceled classes and others have delayed openings. While in the skies, the fresh snow continues to pose a threat to travel plans for all those still making it home for the holiday. All this at the tail end of a record-breaking holiday travel, with TSA screening 3.1 million people on Sunday, the most ever. And I can say to you, it's pretty cold out here, and these chilly conditions are set to stay. NOAA predicting a colder than average month of December for the northern part of the country. So make sure you bundle up for the rest of the month.
Some good advice. Thank you, Erin. For more on this winter storm, which has millions under weather alerts, let's bring in Angie Lassman. She's got your forecast. Angie, good morning.
Hi, Joe. Good morning to you. As Erin mentioned, boy, do we have a lot of impacts from this system as it's working its way east. Now, one thing to note, it is going to continue to move out of the Ohio Valley. So you'll see folks in those regions, in the Great Lakes, start to see things wind down and have some improvements. But it's the Mid-Atlantic up through the Northeast that we're going to really start to ramp things up if we haven't already. Washington, D.C. to Raleigh and out towards towards Knoxville. It's rain for you right now. We've got that snow across the interior areas of the Northeast, stretching from Cleveland to Syracuse. Boston, New York City, not quite getting in on the action just yet, but we've still got time. And 57 million people, of course, are under these winter weather alerts at this point. Now, as we get through the day today, let's go kind of hour by hour to see exactly where we stand. We've got the cold soaking rain stretching from the Carolinas all the way down to New York City, and that's going to leave us, of course, with a difficulty when it comes to travel. And then we've also got those periods of heavy snow stretched across the interior area of the Northeast. The I-95 corridor, that's where we're going to see kind of maybe a wintry mix that transitions over basically into rain. And then as we get into 3 p.m., this is a look at your afternoon. That heaviest snow across parts of New York and New England, basically northern New York to New England, and then that steady rain and really honestly the gusty winds along the coast. That's where we're going to see kind of wind-swept rain for folks in that region. And then as we get closer to the evening, a lot of these locations are going to start to clear out early evening, late evening, New York City, Philadelphia, even Hartford. But we'll still see some rain and snow kind of lingering across parts of northern New England. And then all of that will kind of come to an end here as we get past midnight. Now, between now and then, of course, there's those 3 impacts. So let's start with the heavy snow. We've got those highest totals stretched across the Catskills to Maine. We could see up to a foot in some locations. Closer to the coast, of course, it's going to be mostly rain, but heads up for anyone in the interior Northeast and across parts of this region where you're going to see likely some difficulty when it comes to road travel. So the driving on those icy roads across folks in places like Harrisonburg, Winchester, Charlottesville, all going to see the potential for some accumulating ice with that freezing rain. And then the rainfall amounts, the heaviest totals are going to be closer to the coast, but keep in mind that you will see likely maybe some ponding on the roadways as we get through the day today. So, of course, guys, that's going to cause some problems when it comes to travel. We know that it was a headache over the weekend. And if the folks are still trying to get out, we're likely going to see delays from Charlotte all the way to Boston today.
All right, get that headache medication ready.
Yeah,
Angie,
exactly.
Thank you so much. The Trump administration is facing mounting questions over whether a U.S. strike on an alleged drug smuggling boat in the Caribbean was carried out within the law. The White House confirmed yesterday the U.S. did launch a follow-up strike on September 2nd, and that strike killed the remaining survivors of an earlier bombing of a vessel that officials said was from Venezuela. Some lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, plus some legal experts, say that second attack on people who would likely be otherwise incapacitated could constitute a war crime. Yesterday, the White House press secretary responded to a Washington Post report that really ignited so much of this blowback. That story cited 2 people with direct knowledge of the event and tied the second strike to a verbal order allegedly given by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to, quote, kill everybody. Well, Caroline Leavitt instead shifted the focus to a Navy admiral who was leading the Joint Special Operations Command at the time.
On September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
To clarify, Admiral Bradley was the one who gave that order for a second strike.
And he was well within his authority to do so.
U.S. Special Operations Command, which Admiral Bradley now leads, did not immediately respond to NBC's request for comment. Some lawmakers are now calling on Admiral Bradley and Secretary Hegseth to testify before Congress. NBC News intelligence reporter Dan DeLuce joins us with more on this. Dan, good morning. So President Trump met with his national security team in the Oval Office yesterday. How is the administration's strategy on this evolving as they face these growing legal questions and honestly more reporting from the media? And also, what do we know about Admiral Bradley?
Yeah, Joe, I think this has become a difficult question for the administration. You heard the press secretary there reading from a statement that seemed pretty carefully worded, and they acknowledged there was this second strike, but they're insisting that this was legal. But there's still so many questions and so many details not being offered up here yet. And yes, as far as Admiral Bradley's concerned, they do seem to be putting the responsibility for the second strike on Admiral Bradley. He's a distinguished officer in the Navy. He was a Navy SEAL, served in combat, was among some of the first troops to deploy to Afghanistan after the September 11th attacks. And it's not clear exactly what the interaction was between him and the defense secretary. And I think that's what a lot of lawmakers want to know.
So let's talk about lawmakers. We know members of the House and Senate Armed Services Committees are moving forward with their probe for answers. Sounds like we could get some more clarity in the coming days. This has really become a bipartisan effort here. So what kind of evidence are they trying to gather? And what would this process take place out in the open at a congressional hearing?
Joe, I think most likely this is going to be behind closed doors, because this is about military operations, and they don't want to speak about those publicly, I don't think. It is very significant that the Republican chairs of the Armed Services Committee in both committees, both in the Senate and the House, have spoken out publicly expressing their concern and asked for hearings. That has been pretty unusual during the Trump presidency, where there's kind of a maximum amount of loyalty on the Hill. So I think it shows you how much there is this concern among lawmakers that maybe these strikes, that second strike, violated the laws of war. And of course, these are laws and rules that are inculcated in all the military and throughout the United States and our democratic allies in NATO, which is that you don't, for example, fire on civilians, and you don't fire on wounded troops who are no longer enemy troops that are no longer present an imminent threat. So a lot of questions here. I don't think some of the evidence will come out in public. That will be the most difficult part of this.
Dan, before we let you go, I do want to ask you about the ex-president of Honduras. So let's give folks a little background here. President Trump pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez over the weekend. He was serving a 45-year prison sentence here in the U.S. after he was convicted on drug trafficking and weapons charges. That was just a year ago. That was during the Biden administration. He was convicted of being part of a scheme that brought 500 tons of cocaine into this country over decades. So how is the president now defending this pardon? I mean, critics like Virginia Senator Tim Kaine argue this undercuts this current anti-drug trafficking operation aimed at Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro. What's going on here?
Joe, it does seem to be a massive contradiction. Also, former federal prosecutors expressed outrage and shock about this decision. The president seems to be suggesting that this former president of Honduras was the victim of a conspiracy, that he was merely pursued by his political opponents and framed somehow. But that doesn't explain where all that evidence came from in federal court. That was enough for a court to convict him. But he seems to be indicating that this man is innocent, didn't deserve to be prosecuted. And the president is very interested in that election. And he's trying to help one party that is the party of that former president. So he wants to see the election outcome in what he believes is the U.S.'s favor. So that pardon, it seems to be tied up with that whole approach.
All right, Dan, a lot to cover here. Thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. One of the sons of Mexican drug kingpin El Chapo is taking a plea deal in a major U.S. drug trafficking case. In a federal court in Chicago yesterday, Joaquin Guzman Lopez pleaded guilty to 2 counts of drug trafficking and continuing a criminal enterprise. He admitted to overseeing the transport of tens of thousands of kilos of drugs into the U.S. through underground tunnels. Comes months after his brother also entered into a plea deal. The pair is accused of running a faction of the Sinaloa cartel once led by their father. Federal officials have accused the cartel of conspiring to send a staggering amount of fentanyl into the U.S. Lopez avoided a life sentence by taking the deal, but he does still face at least 10 years in prison. Accused killer Luigi Mangione will be back in a New York City courtroom this morning for more of those pivotal pretrial hearings. This is a legal fight over what evidence the jury will eventually see. The 27-year-old appeared in court yesterday for day 1 of what's expected to be a week's worth of hearings. Mangione's defense team is arguing that several key pieces of evidence should not be admissible in his state murder trial because of how they were seized. He's accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson last year in Midtown Manhattan. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk was in the courtroom when the 911 call that led to his arrest was played for the first time.
New details about accused killer Luigi Mangione's arrest in a Pennsylvania McDonald's nearly a year ago. The Ivy League grad arriving in New York State court with permission to wear civilian clothes. During the pretrial hearing, they played the 911 call placed by the McDonald's manager publicly for the first time. Customers thought he looked suspicious, the manager told the operator, adding, "He looks like the CEO shooter in New York, and they are really upset." At one point, she says, "I don't know what to do here, guys." Mangione pleaded not guilty to state and federal murder charges. His defense team is in court this week hoping to get critical pieces of evidence thrown out before going to trial, including everything discovered in his backpack in that McDonald's, a gun, bullets, and Mangione's alleged writings. Prosecutors say he wrote someone should whack the CEO. Mangione's defense argues the backpack was illegally searched inside the McDonald's without a warrant, and there was a delay in reading his Miranda rights. Prosecutors say the search was justified, in part because police were concerned for their safety.
How difficult is it to have evidence actually thrown out before trial?
It's an uphill battle for defendants. And the reason is, even though a warrantless search is generally unconstitutional, there are so many exceptions.
Also taking the stand, Pennsylvania prison guard who says he had long conversations with Mangione while the accused murderer was under constant watch after being arrested. According to the guard, they discussed how Brian Thompson's murder was being reported. Also part of the conversation, healthcare coverage, specifically the differences between private and universal care.
Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
All right, you just saw her there in Stephanie's piece. Now I'm here with NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris to dive into this a little further. Revealing day one in court from the prosecutor showing your surveillance footage, the 911 calls. What stood out to you the most?
I actually think this 911 call, something new. We didn't really know what the circumstances were on that day. It's a McDonald's employee who calls and says there are customers here who are really upset because they think the United Healthcare CEO killer is at the McDonald's. Calls 911, police respond. This is important because part of what prosecutors are trying to show is what's called exigent circumstances, meaning there was an emergency situation, and this call was setting the stage for how everything else unfolded on that day. Really important to the prosecution's argument.
All right, you told Steph there that even when you don't have this level of attention, this would be an uphill battle for defendants to get this evidence thrown out. Let's recap there. Mangione's legal team essentially arguing because there was no search warrant, he wasn't read his Miranda rights, everything basically seized at McDonald's, backpack, journal, gun, it should all be suppressed. Just looking at history, remove this case and what we've seen in this case so far, how successful is this type of argument usually?
Well, it's really fact-based. And all of the law that we're talking about, the legal standards that are going to be decided by the judge, whether or not the search and the statements come into the courtroom, that is based on case law. So these are cases that have gone up on appeal and decisions have been made about whether or not warrantless searches are justified. And the reason why it's so challenging from a defense perspective is that, of course, there's the default rule. A warrantless search is unconstitutional, but there are many, many exceptions to those rules. And oftentimes you're going to see evidence fitting into those. And I think that's what's going to happen here.
So we heard from 5 witnesses yesterday. That includes a prison guard who spoke at length with Mangione. Prosecutors expected to call a number of others to take the stand throughout the week. What are the stories that both the prosecution and the defense are trying to tell this week to try and get their side to win?
So the prosecution, and remember who the audience is, right? It's Judge Caro. He's been on the bench for 25 years. He's probably done thousands of these. He knows the legal standards. Prosecution wants to focus on what was happening at the time. They're talking about this manhunt of somebody. There's a video in the public sphere. Everybody's looking for this person who's on the run. They want to set that stage and then have all the officers come on the stand and justify why they did what and when. Defense, on the other hand, really focus on the timeline, minute to minute. Where was Luigi? Where was the backpack? Who's talking to him at what point? And that minutia, and trying to fit into that overall argument that all of this evidence should be thrown out.
All right, more to come today. Misty, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. More to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, experts say it is a dangerous trend. More people quitting their prescriptions without a doctor's approval. We'll have more on the risks and the alternatives. Up first, new developments on the war in Ukraine. Top U.S. officials set to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin today in Moscow for new peace talks. We got the latest next. Stay with us. It's an important day as the Trump administration pushes for a peace deal to end the Russia-Ukraine war. Today, President Trump's top envoy, Steve Witkoff, And his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, will hold a high-stakes meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. They're bringing an updated peace framework that was hashed out with Ukrainian officials during those recent talks in Geneva and Florida. Speaking yesterday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the administration was hopeful that its shuttle diplomacy would end the conflict.
I think the administration feels very optimistic. We've put points on paper. Those points have been very much refined. But as for the details, I will let the negotiators negotiate. But we do feel quite good, and we're hopeful that this war can finally come to an end.
NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons joins us now from Moscow. Keir, good to have you with us. So the Trump administration clearly optimistic going into today's meeting with President Putin. What's the view from the Kremlin? What can we expect from these talks today?
Well, I'll just tell you, Joe, that the Kremlin is saying that these potentially pivotal talks will begin in just a few hours' time, and we've seen footage of the convoy of the U.S. delegation coming from the airport, driving past the Kremlin, that world-famous location. You can see it as they go by. They don't go into the Kremlin. They haven't, as far as we are aware, come here to the U.S. Embassy here in Moscow. You can see the Stars and Stripes flying behind me there. So where they are in Moscow right now is open to question from our perspective. But as you say, the Russians confirming that President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, will join his envoy, Steve Witkoff, in these talks. And that is significant because for Steve Witkoff, this is the 6th time he's come to Moscow this year. For Jared Kushner, it is a first. And they do have, Joe, a big task ahead. I'll just tell you, I'm told by a Russian official with knowledge of the talks that there are 3 key pillars to the Kremlin's position. One is that they want more territory, all of the Donbass region, that they want international recognition of that territory, and that they want limits on the Ukrainian military. All of those demands have been rejected by the Ukrainians and by many European countries up until now.
So while that's going on there in Moscow, Keir, we know Ukraine's President Zelensky has been touring Europe to rally support for his country. Just yesterday, that meant meeting with France's President Macron. What is Zelensky's message ahead of today's Moscow meeting?
Yeah, and President Macron, after that meeting, and it was a long meeting with President Zelensky, speaking with by phone President Trump. I think President Zelensky's position is kind of summed up this way, really, that he does want peace, that he is interested in negotiating, but that he is not interested in capitulating, effectively surrendering. And that is where I think we're going to see a really difficult challenge here for the Trump administration. Clearly, there is a positive momentum. The Trump administration are here in Moscow, and as you say, they've also had those meetings with the Europeans and the Ukrainians in Florida with the Ukrainians. There is momentum, but there is still a massive gap between the Russian position and the Ukrainian position.
And we should be clear, amid this ongoing diplomacy, the fighting on the ground certainly has not stopped. I mean, just yesterday, Russia announced it had captured the eastern Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk. Real quick here, Keir, how significant is that battlefield gain?
Yeah. It's incremental gains. Analysts say that despite what President Putin says, the Ukrainian front line is not about to collapse. But I will say real quick, Joe, that what we've heard from President Putin just this week and last week demonstrates that he does believe he is winning. And what he is effectively saying is, I'll either get what I want diplomatically or through war. Analysts say that war could last for years before he gets the kind of territory that he's demanding on those terms. But that is President Putin's position.
Keir Simmons reporting from Moscow. Keir, thank you so much. Let's continue this conversation with the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, John Herbst. Ambassador, always good to have you with us. What do you think we're going to see in today's meeting between Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner and President Putin? I mean, do you think Witkoff will be able to successfully sell this updated peace framework to Moscow? Do you expect Putin could make any concessions in this process?
That he can persuade Trump to accept Russian-friendly terms. And he is not going to accept a document which does not give him the territory in Western Donbass, which he has been unable to conquer in nearly 4 years since the big invasion, highly defensible territory. He's not going to accept a document which does not include serious limits on Ukraine's military. Basically, he wants a surrender document, and he thinks that, at least with Special Envoy Witkoff, he has a friendly ear. For Trump, this is a dilemma. He has to choose between a pseudo peace, which Russia would accept, which leaves Ukraine vulnerable to renewed aggression, or a durable peace, which is a stated goal.
We just mentioned here with Kier, the Russians say they've captured the city of Pokrovsk in eastern Ukraine. Kier called it an incremental gain. Does that, though, strengthen Moscow's hand going into these talks, the progress that Moscow has been making?
Look, we don't know if the Russians have taken it. They've been claiming they were going to take it for months. They claimed they took it 2 or 3 weeks ago and they didn't. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But, there are a bunch of Russian war bloggers who are all in to conquer Ukraine, who say that the gains that Russia has made around Pokrovsk are of no strategic or operational value because they've come at very great cost and they have not broken through Ukraine's lines. Even if Russia's taken Pokrovsk, Ukraine's defensive lines hold, it's a gain of minimal significance.
There's another setback facing Ukraine right now, and that's this corruption scandal that's engulfing Kyiv. President Zelensky's chief of staff, also his top negotiator, was ousted last week in this latest shakeup. Does this put more pressure on Zelensky to make some kind of deal, or does he still have the broad support of Ukrainians?
There are lots of people in Washington, some of whom have power, who think that scandal makes Zelensky more vulnerable to compromise, requires him to compromise. They've got it exactly wrong. The community in Ukraine that believes strongly in going after corruption are among the toughest hawks in the country. If Zelensky is weakened, it makes it harder for him to compromise.
All right. Ambassador Herbst, always good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Staying with overseas news, Pope Leo is on the last leg of his first trip abroad as the leader of the Catholic Church. Earlier today, he held a mass for thousands of worshipers in Lebanon, which has the largest Christian population in the Middle East. He also stopped to pray at the site of a massive port explosion, which killed 200 people in Beirut 5 years ago. Throughout his 2-day stay in the country, the American-born Pope's main message to religious leaders and to young people was unity. NBC News International correspondent Molly Hunter was there for his arrival.
Arriving in his open-air Pope-mobile, Pope Leo greeting 15,000 young people.
Dear young people of Lebanon, peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum.
A Lebanese choir belting out Christian hymns and prayers to an enthusiastic audience. The American Pope's visit to this small, diverse Middle Eastern country is centered on interfaith unity. Lebanon boasts 18 official faiths and sects, a fine line for the new pope to walk. Meeting leaders from the Muslim, Druze, and Christian communities, planting an olive tree together on the green line that once divided the Muslim West and Christian East in the Civil War. Leo urged them to be builders of peace. We waited with the crowds as the pontiff drove past.
You hear that excitement? There he is, the American Pope, driving right through the center of Beirut.
It's so overwhelming. 17-year-old Rana Nahul was ecstatic.
Can you share with us, what does it feel like right now to be a young Christian in Lebanon?
I feel like I'm a part of a movement. I'm part of change because there's a lot of Christians communities on social media, on the streets, in the churches, and I'm so glad to be part of this.
18-year-old Joey Tuma had a Vatican flag wrapped around his shoulders.
I felt goosebumps all on my body. It's something special. Look at this. It's giving us hope that we're not in danger and he will try to help us. It's a message for us to stay in that country.
Because so many young people are leaving and so many Christians are leaving.
Yes, I hope they can stay in this country and give it a push forward.
And for twins, Christian influencers Giovanni and Charbel Latif, that's their core mission.
I am still very hopeful, and because I see it with my own eyes, of how much Christianity is still alive in our lands.
They run the social media handle Eastern Christians with nearly 700,000 followers.
Being born into this very beautiful religious country is a very honor for us. You realize how beautiful this is and how you want to fight to keep these traditions and cultures and this beautiful identity living, and how you want to tell the whole world about it.
Yeah, when you're born a Christian in this East and the Middle East, you're born with this responsibility too.
The first American Pope offering a pep talk to their generation.
You have the enthusiasm to change the course of history.
Molly Hunter, NBC News.
Coming up on Morning News Now, is it preventative or problematic? A controversial health trend encouraging healthy people to get full-body MRIs.
This is saving lives. We know it is. And what's better than saving lives is changing lives.
We come back more on the costly procedure that some say could save lives and what doctors want you to know. We'll be right back. We are back with a closer look at a medical test that's sparking mixed reaction from doctors. We're talking about a full-body MRI scan, something that can detect tumors or cancers in the earliest stages before many people even feel symptoms. Critics say, though, those scans are expensive and don't actually help you live longer. But the company behind the technology argues that they can help save lives. NBC News Now anchor Gadi Schwartz tried the scan himself.
If you've heard of Prenuvo, chances are it's because it's come across your social media feed. The full body scans, all the rage among the influencer crowd.
I just want to see if there's anything wrong inside my body.
Seemingly healthy people wanting to take a look inside themselves to see if anything's amiss. But at Prenuvo, the on-demand MRIs and image analysis aren't about curiosity. It's about rethinking healthcare.
We're asking sort of profoundly different questions about how we want our health system to be.
Hello. We'll get into all that in a minute, but first, we got to give it a shot. I signed in, suited up, and did a metal check.
Yeah, let's take off your mic. Thank you.
Then it was time to try to get comfortable, get covered from head to toe, and prepare to be scanned, which can be a long 45 minutes.
Just checking in. Still doing okay?
Yeah. Yeah, it's stressful in here.
Oh, freedom! After the scan, we chatted with Andrew Lacey, the founder and CEO of Prenuvo, and he shared his vision for the future of healthcare.
I believe in a future where in 20 years' time, everyone will be getting scans and comprehensive blood tests every year. And we'll look back at the way we do medicine today, and we'll think of it as barbaric.
Scanning tens of thousands of patients a year yields massive amounts of data, a powerful tool that might just be able to predict societal-level health problems, like what phone use is doing to our body.
When we showed the average spine image of someone in their 20s to our radiologist and asked them to guess the age of that patient, they would say mid-30s, early 40s. We believe that we are uncovering this future epidemic in spinal problems.
Last summer, Prenuvo researchers published a paper linking smoking to brain shrinkage. The research was made possible by a large sample size of Prenuvo scans and the use of AI to help sift through the data.
We're working on AI models that help deliver insights to you about how the way you're living your life is impacting the physiology of your body.
These scans cost about $2,500, and insurance doesn't usually cover elective MRIs. And here's where it gets controversial. None of the major medical organizations recommend elective scans, and the American College of Radiologists says there's no evidence that they prolong life.
The harms likely outweigh the benefits.
Dr. Matthew Davenport is a University of Michigan radiologist who has published research on elective body scans.
Most of what you end up detecting are false positives that create a lot of uncertainty. That uncertainty leads to biopsies, interventions, surgeries, and all the complications that come from that, but don't actually provide a value back to you in terms of your health.
Dr. Davenport argues that these procedures, if paid for by insurance, raise premiums for others.
If we're doing this indiscriminately in relatively low-risk patients, and literally the only group that's saying we should do it has a for-profit, strong conflict of interest promoting the test, we should be skeptical about that.
So you can see there's some degenerative change here.
In my case, the scan did find something that I didn't know I had.
You got a small hernia here. It's called inguinal hernia.
Interesting. I have a hernia right now.
It's also hard to describe seeing your own body from such a deep perspective.
So in this hernia, is it at a point right now where I don't need to go into surgery and I can kind of just live with it for a while?
It depends on symptoms, right? If your symptoms are sort of now daily symptoms, they're stopping you from doing what you want to do, I'm probably going to recommend that you go have a chat with a general surgeon.
But what I was really worried about was the possibility of something worse maybe lurking in my brain. About 10 years ago, I inexplicably blacked out while on a flight and have always feared there might be something seriously wrong. But for me, this scan gave me a peace of mind.
Completely normal, nothing to worry about.
Unremarkable.
Unremarkable.
I love it.
And for others, the scans have been potentially life-saving, like Dr. Vikash Modi himself.
I volunteered to be sort of a test patient for one of our new machines.
That scan found an abnormality in Dr. Modi's bone marrow, which led to a biopsy.
The bone marrow biopsy confirmed that I have chronic myeloid lymphoid neoplasm, which is a very long term for a type of blood cancer. extremely rare. Within another couple of years, I would have developed severe symptoms.
But because the condition was detected so early,
this is now a manageable condition.
And despite the controversy over other findings that ended up being benign, a recent study of 1,000 asymptomatic patients by Pernuvo found cancers in more than 20 of them.
Do you think this is saving lives? We know it is. And what's better than saving lives is changing lives. New empowerment, new information, the ability to act, to be proactive, and that is an invaluable opportunity for patients.
Gotti Schwartz, NBC News.
For more on this and some other headline-making health news, let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel. Dr. Patel, good morning. This certainly is a talker, as we just heard Gotti outline in his piece. These full-body MRI scans are pretty controversial. What's your take?
Yes, so Joe, there's no question that there are more and more people who are migrating directly to getting these whole-body scans, and I think we're going to step into some very famous people who have had them themselves, including the president. But I do think that there is a way to look at this that shows you the overall merit of why people are going, and to also pick apart kind of some of the criticisms, which we heard. A couple of them, by the way, are that there can be false positives. What does that mean? It means that sometimes these tests can detect things that are not actually cancer, but can lead to tests in order to get biopsies that could become just basically rabbit holes that also lead to stress and anxiety. I have had patients that have had this that have also, just like you heard in Gotti's piece, found things that even our traditional scanning methods have not. Different types of cancers, other types of brain abnormalities. I think what's really interesting, Joe, is that there's a value to this just beyond what I think gets a lot of attention, which is cancer detection or things in the brain, which are also very important. People are now starting to use this for overall metabolic health. And there was a study that was done recently that showed that basically, we talked about it here actually on Morning News Now. We talked about basically your visceral body fat. So that's that deep fat under your belly and how that can actually be damaging in the long run for your brain health. Well, that study was done with whole body MRIs. So I think that as these technologies improve and as the cost improves, this is going to become a more and more valuable tool. Hopefully not for just those who can afford $2,500 a year.
That's the big deal, the price tag right there. You mentioned the president, and that's because we recently learned from the White House he underwent an MRI on his heart and abdomen. That was in October. The White House physician said these results were perfectly normal, that this type of scan is standard for someone the president's age. But let's be clear, this imaging not standard for an annual physical. So what types of concerns, just generally speaking, are these preventative MRIs usually used to address?
Yeah, you're right to mention that this is not standard. I would also say that the president is not a standard patient. So I'm not shocked that the president had this whole body scan. And what they specifically mentioned was kind of his cardiovascular health. I think that's putting to bed a lot of issues that, social media and other media have brought up, that could there potentially be something with the president. They'd seen bruising on his hand, things like that. And he's talked about his health before and just that he's in incredible health, but we get these very one-page descriptions, and that's exactly what we see here, is that there's usually when you get a whole body scan like this, Joe, there's an incredibly detailed kind of output. What we saw was that he's in incredible health here, but it was likely done to check for cancers as well as any cardiovascular issues, which is exactly what you're hearing the general public also using these tests for.
Let's hit some other health news here real quickly. The World Health Organization is now recommending GLP-1 drugs for adults who are trying to manage their obesity. They're calling the drugs a scientific breakthrough. They're recommending they be used as part of a long-term treatment that includes other weight loss methods that we usually use, diet and exercise. So how is this different from the previous guidelines on obesity? And just what does this tell us about how our understanding of obesity as a disease continues to change?
Yeah, so these are the WHO's first global guidelines on these therapies. They've never issued a global guideline on a specific targeted obesity treatment per se. So I want to just stress a couple of things, though. Number one, the definitions of obesity in countries can vary. And in the World Health Organization, it's a body mass index of over 30. And that is slightly higher than what we use in the United States. They also did stress, as you mentioned, the lifestyle interventions. This is also what they had stressed before. And that's because the WHO has to deal with things like cost and health system access. And by highlighting something that even in the United States show that we can't get to everyone who wants, it's a pretty profound statement that these are not only drugs that are here to stay, but as you mentioned, these are what I would say generational changing drugs, that with these drugs, the WHO making this recommendation is basically saying that we have a chance to change the global face of obesity. I just want to note that something they said is that they did not include pregnant women, We've talked about that here before. So something to watch out for, more research to do.
You also mentioned cost. That is an issue with these drugs, just like it's an issue with the full body MRI. We've seen the Trump administration trying to lower these costs. When you have a guideline change like this from the WHO, can that help?
It can help, but you've also seen the manufacturers, kind of right around the same time, what a funny coincidence, that have also changed kind of their direct access costs. So it is now technically in the United States, it is possible to get these drugs at a much lower price than it was even just a month ago, Joe. But that's not going to be enough to get it to even most Americans, even at a price point of, let's say, $200 to $300 a month. So these are still going to be issues that we have to wrestle with. This is very similar to when we've seen other generational life-changing drugs like HIV drugs. This is when the global community had to kind of pull together and say, we will make some of these drugs cheaper for most of the world because it's important to get there. The WHO's announcement gets us at least a start towards talking about that.
Step by step. All right, Dr. Patel, good to have you with us. Thanks so much. Let's go from your physical health to your mental health with our weekly mental health check-in. This week, we're looking at how more people are quitting antidepressants and the withdrawal symptoms that can follow. Plus, we're going to explore the different ways that giving back during the holidays can have real benefits for your mental health. Joining us now for more on these mental health headlines is Dr. Robbie Ludwig. She's a psychotherapist and the host of the Pivot with Robbie Ludwig podcast. Dr. Robbie, always good to have you with us. So let's start with this recent trend we're seeing. It's people stopping their antidepressants and other medications on their own. It's known as the de-prescribing movement. It's hard to say. Many experts warn if you stop too quickly or without proper support, that can lead to serious withdrawal symptoms. So what should people keep in mind before making a decision like this to stop? How do you minimize some of the risks?
Yeah, so it's really important if someone is on an antidepressant, if they want to reduce what they're on or if they want to stop, they need to do it with a doctor, a psychiatrist who can help taper the medication to minimize the withdrawal likeliness. And so that's why it needs to be done with a professional. When people just stop on their own, they risk having withdrawal symptoms like mood swings, muscle pain, panic attacks. And so we need to impress upon people, don't do this on your own. Work with a professional. Doctors want to help patients be on the exact medication or taper off, whatever works for the patient. They want to help the patient and be there for them.
All right, I love this next topic. We're going to talk about, as we're in this holiday season, the positive impact of helping others. Experts say volunteering or giving back can actually boost your mood, give you a sense of purpose, even create something that's called a helper's high. That's a good high. So tell us how this works.
It's a good high. Yeah. If you want to feel naturally good, a natural antidepressant is giving to a cause that you feel in alignment with. And it actually impacts the brain, increasing the dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. It's a great way to reduce loneliness, to be connected to others in a community. And it also helps us get in touch with our own purpose and being grateful for what we have and being able to offer it to others.
Real quick, let's talk about this trend that's getting attention online. It's called the Great Lock-In. This is where people commit to self-improvement challenges through the end of this year instead of waiting till January 1st. So upsides, downsides to this.
So upside, this can help you be motivated and be mindful of your workout and be accountable with other people who are in sync with you. The downside is it can encourage a perfectionism, which leads to a sense of failure or even putting your body in harm's way if you're doing too much too soon. When it comes to workout, you want the slow, steady, and what you can actually do in your regular everyday life.
And yeah, dieting during the holidays feels like the riskiest.
Yeah, that's a tough. I've tried that. Tough.
Dr. Robbie, thanks so much. Coming up, if traveling more is one of your New Year's resolutions, well, this day is for you. Cyber Monday's over. Now it's Travel Tuesday. We're going to get the lowdown on where you can get some of the best deals for your next vacation. So start packing your bags. Morning News Now. We'll be right back. Okay, so we've had Black Friday, we've had Small Business Saturday, we've had Cyber Monday, and we're not done yet. We've got one more day of deals for anyone planning their next getaway. It's called Travel Tuesday. What initially started as a marketing campaign Well, now it's one of the best days of the year to save big bucks on travel deals. Experts say now is the time to book your spring break trips or maybe that international adventure that you've been dreaming about. For more on some of the best travel deals today, we're joined now by Clint Henderson. He's the principal spokesperson for The Points Guy. Clint, always good to have you with us. So before we jump into the deals, just walk us through how Travel Tuesday actually started and came to be one of the biggest days to save money on travel.
Yeah, it started back in 2017 by the travel booking site Hopper. They compiled this. They started calling it Travel Deals Tuesday. It for me in the beginning, when I first started covering this, it was sort of a marketing gimmick. Now it's Katie bar the door, amazing deals, so much so that I'm going to be booking trips today for as much of the year as I can.
So it's legit. That's good to hear. So let's start with domestic deals. What are some of the things people can find today?
Yeah, so all the major airlines have deals of some sort or another. American Airlines, under $100 flights one way. Alaska Airlines, 30% off base fares, pretty good deal. I love this from Hawaiian, $99 to fly from Hawaii to the continental United States. That's a great deal, round trip, $200 there. Delta has discounted fares from nearly every airport they fly from. And then you've got deals from the low-cost carriers as well, with as much as 60% off base fares. All these airlines that fly internationally have flights for under $500 round trip. The only caveat being that a lot of these deals are for the next 3 months, so they don't last through the peak summer dates. But if you've got spring break travel coming up, it's a great day to book.
Yeah, that's my question. I mean, I feel like the international travel deals have already been incredibly good. It feels like going abroad is cheaper than flying domestically, but it could be even better today.
Yeah, and you don't see it usually on Delta and American Airlines and United necessarily. So when you have a sale like this, even the majors, you can find those discounted fares really, really cheap.
Any hotel brands offering deals on the reservations once you get to the location?
Oh, yeah. All the hotel brands have anywhere from 25 to 30% off. You can see some of those listed here. Hyatt, Hilton, Marriott. I will say a lot of these sales are going to end in the next week or so. They're now calling this Cyber Week, so just keep that in mind when you're booking these trips. And just for your audience, I'm about to hit publish on my roundup of all the new flight deals for Travel Tuesday. So I'll be publishing that in the next 10 minutes or so at thepointsguy.com.
All right. Good plug right there. Clint Henderson, good to have you with us. Happy traveling. Thanks so much.
All right.
Coming up, something that's designed to make you mad, literally. We're talking about Oxford's choice for word of the year after the break, and we're going to talk to someone at Oxford to tell us how rage bait made it to the top of its list, plus the other words that almost made the cut. So stay with us. You're watching Morning News Now. Welcome back. We are wrapping up this hour with a look at Oxford University Press's word of the year, and drum roll, it's rage bait. The word, actually 2 words, it's an expression, topped a short list that also included aura farming and biohack. Rage bait is defined as online content deliberately designed to elicit anger or outrage by being frustrating, provocative, or offensive, typically posted in order to increase traffic to or engagement with a particular web page or social media account. In other words, half the stuff we see on social media. Here to talk more about this is Casper Grathwohl. He is the president of Oxford Languages at Oxford University Press. Casper, good to have you with us. So first of all, just help us understand how you picked these words and drew up the short list.
Well, we look at a lot of data that people are in the language people are using every day in both the media, in social media, in their lives, on the news, and shows like yours. We put this all into a corpus and we analyze it and we look at word trends and usage trends and how frequency is changing. And that alerts us to some candidates that might be good words of the year.
In the end, how did rage bait win? And tell us just how popular it has become.
Well, we've seen rage bait. It's not a new word this year, but it's been growing in popularity over the last few years. And this past year, its usage increased threefold. And I think that tells us something about our increasing awareness of the manipulation tactics that we can be drawn into online.
So a lot of people are going to point out, as I noted, rage bait is 2 words, not 1 word. So help us understand how that becomes your word of the year. Is this rage bait?
Joe, I get this a lot. It's called an open compound. Think of words like ice cream or hot dog, high school. This is a word like that. And of course, it can change over time as people use these words. Maybe rage bait will become one word over time, but right now it's an open compound. That's what we call it in the lexical world.
If you combine it, it would be rebate? That doesn't work. Oh, well, anyway. All right, so we should note along those lines, I mean, last year's winner was brain rot, also two words that kind of need to go together. Yes. You say it captures the mental drain of endless scrolling. This year's winner, rage bait, shines a light on the content purposefully engineered to spark outrage and drive clicks. So you think these two words are a little bit linked, right? What does this tell us about just how digital platforms are just shaping our behavior and how we live right now?
No, it is. I mean, look, the combination brain rot, it was, as you say, was last year's word. Rage bait is this year's. Together, they kind of they describe a really powerful cycle where like outrage sparks engagement, then the algorithms amplify it, and the constant exposure just leaves us mentally exhausted. I mean, I think that these words, they don't just define trends, they really reveal a lot about how digital platforms are reshaping how we think and our overall behavior.
Hopefully we get a more positive word next year. Real quick, we got like 20 seconds left here, but what was your favorite runner-up?
My favorite runner-up was biohack, only because you see these oligarchs and these millionaire bros all trying to put technology into their brains and that's coming. I think we need to brace for it.
All right. Gasper Grathwohl, good to have you with us. A fun conversation. Thanks for speaking with us this morning.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, that is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now, but stick with us. The news continues right now. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. Right now on Morning News Now, a song of ice and snow. Mother Nature painting parts of the Northeast and Midwest with a blanket of the white stuff. Also adding an extra chill for folks still trying to head home after the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. So, what awaits you as you head out the door on this Tuesday? Our Angie Lastman is tracking it all. Also this morning, the blame game playing out in Washington after that second confirmed strike on an alleged Venezuelan drug boat back in September. The White House defending Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth amid concerns the U.S. may have violated the laws of war if that second strike was meant to kill survivors of a first attack. Now, lawmakers on Capitol Hill are demanding answers. More on that in just a moment. Plus, sticker shock at security, why it could soon cost you a little extra to roll through those airport TSA lines. That's if you don't already have your real ID. And later in the hour, we're marking this Giving Tuesday with a story on the world's most followed visual artist. He's using his awe-inspiring reach to bring a smile to the faces of those who just might need it most. Could use that on this Tuesday. Let's start this hour with the latest on that winter storm system that is hammering much of the country. This morning, 57 million Americans are under winter weather alerts. That includes folks in Missouri, where the storm dumped up to 10 inches of snow just north of St. Louis. The snow and ice are snarling traffic and delaying flights across the country. And yes, some travelers are still trying to make their way home after last week's Thanksgiving holiday. Well, now the East Coast is bracing for an intense start to winter. Forecasters say the storm could turn into a bomb cyclone, bringing strong winds and even more snow to the region this week. NBC's Aaron McLaughlin is in eastern Pennsylvania, where heavy snow is expected to start falling very soon. Aaron, good morning.
Hey there, good morning. We're bracing for the first snow of the season here in Scranton, Pennsylvania, with 3 to 6 inches in the forecast, set to strike at any moment. Pennsylvania state officials tell me they have been working to make sure the roads are ready, while in the skies, more snow means more chaos.
Overnight, a fast-moving storm striking the Midwest, with heavy snow sweeping across the Great Lakes. Rain stretching as far south as Texas. All a part of a storm system stretching from the Rockies to Rhode Island, impacting more than 80 million Americans. Roads slick with snow, causing collisions.
It's bad, guys. It's bad.
And gridlock on some highways in the Midwest, with snow crews also scrambling.
This is a disaster.
While residents in the Northeast get ready.
Yes, here for ice, a shovel,
anything else I can find.
The winter storm comes just days after severe weather over the Thanksgiving holiday snarled millions of travel plans across the country. TSA screened 3.1 million people on Sunday, the most ever.
I was looking on the app and they said there at one point there was no flights for the next 3 days. So we'll see if I get out tonight.
Many now getting ready to hunker down and enjoy the winter wonderland.
Granted, Mother Nature lately hasn't really given us much in December, so I'm kind of hoping, first time in a long time, a white Christmas.
I hope there's a lot of snow. I hope it's like 8 inches and we can have off. I want a blizzard.
Well, the New Jersey governor has declared a state of emergency for the northwestern part of that state, urging folks to remain cautious on the roads. And in terms of these frigid temps, NOAA is predicting a colder than average December for the northern part of the country. So make sure you bundle up for the rest of the month.
All right, Aaron, thank you so much. For more on the storm, let's bring in meteorologist Angie Lastman. She's got your wintry forecast, so what can we expect, Angie?
You know, we've got the snow, the rain, the freezing rain, and the chilly temperatures on the table today, Joe. Let's talk about exactly where we're seeing some of those most impactful conditions. Across parts of the Northeast, we've already seen some of that snow kind of working in as this system works out of the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Down through the Mid-Atlantic, you can see some of that freezing rain happening where the brighter purple shade is. And then, of course, the rain up and down, folks from Washington, D.C. down through Asheville. We've got plenty of winter alerts topping more than 50 million folks this morning, and that system's going to be on the move as the day goes on. So it's the cold soaking rain this morning. This is a pause at 9 a.m. You can see the rain stretch from essentially Washington, D.C. down through Charleston. It's the snow for places like Pittsburgh and Buffalo across the interior areas of the Northeast. And then it's kind of a wintry mix for the early part of the day across the I-95 corridor. And then that quickly transitions to rain, and we're just left with kind of some soggy conditions for the rest of the day across that region. The heaviest snow, though, will be up through northern New York and New England. And then by the time we get to 9 o'clock this evening, a lot of folks will already have seen that kind of weather wind down. New York, Philadelphia will be much drier, but we'll still be left with some of this snow kind of hanging out across parts of northern New England. As we look at those totals, there could be some impressive amounts when it comes to the snow in some spots, specifically northern New York up through Maine. That's where we'll see those highest amounts, potentially up to a foot in some of the isolated locations. But notice Concord, anywhere from 6 to 9 inches. But the closer you get to the coast, not a whole lot if you're looking for some snow. Instead, we're going to see that rain across the regions closer to that coastline. When it comes to travel, a lot of folks having difficulty over the past couple of days and lingering potentially into travel, post-Thanksgiving travel through even today. We could still see some difficulty. The interior Northeast, it's the snow-covered and slushy roads, and then up and down I-95 really stretching all the way down to Savannah to Boston. That's where you're going to see the rainfall, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little delayed on the roadways there with some ponding when it comes to the heavy rain. And then if you're flying anywhere from Charlotte up through Boston, you'll see those delays likely as well. We've got some gusty conditions that we're going to expect across this region too. And on top of that, just adding insult to injury, if you're not a winter fan, we've got some really chilly air kind of settling in. Notice Marquette, we're looking at 3 degrees below for what it feels like. But even farther south, Cleveland, 27 degrees is all you're getting this morning. We've got 34 for what it feels like in New York City. And this cold is going to continue, of course, into this afternoon, where our temperatures top out just into the 30s and even 20s across the Midwest. But even into tomorrow, you're going to want to bundle up. We'll get more of that cold air spilling into the plains. It's 20s for Minneapolis, 30s for Chicago. Columbus ends up into the mid-30s. And then it is frigid as we round out our work week, Joe. 20 degrees in Omaha on Thursday, 21 in Detroit. You get the picture. Winter has arrived in full force across this region.
Right, not officially winter, but it's winter. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Angie, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Top Trump officials are gearing up for a potentially pivotal meeting today with Russian President Vladimir Putin to sign the U.S. is intensifying efforts to end the Ukraine war. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is leading those talks, bringing with him an updated peace framework that was negotiated with Kyiv during recent talks in Florida and Geneva. NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons joins us from Moscow with the latest. Keir, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning to you. No sign of the U.S. delegation here at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, but those talks, according to the Kremlin, just a few hours away. And according to the Russians, President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, will join his envoy, Steve Witkoff, in those talks with President Putin. For Witkoff, Joe, it is the 6th time he has come here to Moscow and to Russia to see Putin just this year. But for Kushner, it's a first. This morning, the US delegation set to meet President Putin, leaving a Moscow airport in a motorcade, continuing to push a US-backed peace proposal revised after days of negotiations with Ukraine.
I think the administration feels very optimistic.
Ahead of the meeting, the Kremlin releasing footage of Putin in military uniform, being briefed on the war, appearing emotional over the, quote, slaughter of Ukrainian soldiers by his own Russian troops, but blaming Kyiv for the deaths. Putin, who ordered the invasion of Ukraine, calling it a tragedy for the Ukrainian people. Outside the American embassy in Moscow, Russians telling us they want peace, but not at any price.
I believe the end of this war is near.
You think the end of the war is near?
I believe that, yeah.
You hope so?
Yeah, I hope.
Everybody is just tired of it, of the casualties, of the victims, this man says. After negotiations with the Ukrainian delegation in Florida, both the US and Ukraine called them constructive, but said there was more work to be done.
We are discussing about the future of Ukraine, about the security of Ukraine, about no repetition of aggression of Ukraine.
President Zelensky stressing the importance of security guarantees, shoring up support from allies. In Ireland today, after meeting with President Macron in France, Zelensky warning the topic of territories looks most difficult. President Putin insisting any deal must hand land to Russia after saying last week, if they don't withdraw, we'll achieve this by force. Analysts say Russia is making battlefield gains, but adding Ukraine's front line is not facing imminent collapse, and that gaining the territory Putin is demanding would likely take years. And a Russian official, Joe, tells NBC, with knowledge of the talks, tells NBC News that there are 3 pillars to the Kremlin's position. One is wanting more territory, the other is wanting international recognition of that territory, and finally limits on the Ukrainian army. Joe, every one of those demands have been rejected up until now by the Ukrainians and many European countries, Joe.
All right, Keir, thank you so much. The White House is going on the record about who ordered a repeat U.S. military strike on an alleged drug boat off the coast of Venezuela. White House officials confirmed yesterday a second attack on survivors of an initial bombing did occur, but they said Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth did not make the call. Comes amid mounting legal questions over whether the second strike amounts to a war crime. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has the latest. Gabe, good morning.
Joe, good morning. The White House is now trying to shift the focus away from the defense secretary. A major question now, will Republicans on Capitol Hill, many of whom have been skeptical of these airstrikes, keep up pressure on the president? A key admiral is now expected to speak with senior lawmakers here in Washington this week. This morning, the Trump administration doubling down on the decision to strike an alleged drug boat near Venezuela in early September twice. NBC News reporting that second strike was ordered after the first failed to kill everyone on board, according to a U.S. official and a source familiar with the Pentagon's actions. Some lawmakers now raising legal concerns if the second strike targeted survivors, with questions growing about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's role.
Does the administration deny that that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
The latter is true, Abe. Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law.
Admiral Frank Bradley is overseeing the growing U.S. military buildup in the region, which the administration says is targeting drug traffickers. Lawmakers on both sides now calling for more information.
And we're going to try to get to the facts.
Some say targeting incapacitated survivors after the initial strike could be a war crime.
You don't do that. Everybody knows that. You know, that is against the Geneva Conventions.
On Sunday, President Trump was asked about a second strike aimed at killing survivors.
Number one, I don't know that happened, but no, I wouldn't have wanted that, not a second strike.
Hegseth now placing responsibility for the second strike on Admiral Bradley, posting he has my 100% support. I stand by him and the combat decisions he has made. Meanwhile, President Trump held an Oval Office meeting Monday with his team, including Hegseth, to discuss Venezuela. Also meeting with the president yesterday, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who posted afterwards that she was recommending a new domestic policy, a, quote, full travel ban on every damn country that's been flooding our nation with killers, leeches, and entitlement junkies. Trump has intensified his crackdown on immigration in the wake of last week's shooting of 2 National Guard members in Washington, allegedly by an Afghan national who entered the U.S. legally in 2021. Overnight, President Trump shared Secretary Noem's post on social media. We've reached out to the Department of Homeland Security for more details and have not yet heard back. Certainly all of this, the proposed expanded travel ban and the Venezuela developments, are expected to be front and center when the president meets with his cabinet in front of cameras later today. Joe?
All right, Gabe, thank you so much. So if you thought we were done with elections this year, then you probably don't live in Middle Tennessee. Voters there will head to the polls today to choose the next representative for the state's 7th congressional district. The special election was organized after Republican Representative Mark Green resigned from Congress this past summer. Now, President Trump won that district by 22 points last year, but this race has quickly become one to watch as Republicans hope to make up for those losses to Democrats in the gubernatorial races in New Jersey and Virginia last month. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us now from Washington with more on this. Julie, good morning. So tell us a little more about the candidates who are facing off in this special election and why this race is receiving so much attention.
Yeah, usually we don't talk about congressional House races, especially in off-election years, but this one we are talking about because it's Matt Van Epps. He's the Republican candidate who Trump had endorsed. He campaigned for him, calling into a tele-rally last night. Speaker Mike Johnson was there on the ground with him in Tennessee. He's facing off against Democratic state lawmaker Afton Bain. Now, Democrats are feeling kind of good heading into Election Day today for a couple of reasons. The first one you mentioned, their big wins just a couple of weeks ago in New York City, in New Jersey, in Virginia. They've campaigned on this message of affordability, and they think it's really resonating. The second reason is because Mark Green did win last year by double digits. President Trump, though, was on the ticket. So it was a completely different situation. Now in this election cycle, of course, President Trump is not at the top of the ticket. Turnout is going to be a big issue in this district. And that's exactly the message that he had for voters there yesterday. It's also a big deal for control of the House. That's why Speaker Johnson cares so much about this seat. He already has just a 2-seat majority. If Democrats pull this one out, it would be a major upset.
I have to imagine the ads there right now in that part of Middle Tennessee are pretty extensive. All right, let's get to some other political news here. Indiana lawmakers met yesterday. They're now taking up this redistricting effort amid pressure from President Trump to redraw congressional maps in favor of Republicans. We're now learning at least 11 Indiana Republicans have been targets of swatting attacks and some other threats in recent weeks. Tell us more about what's going on here.
Yeah, this issue of political violence and intimidation is just hitting every corner of the country and both parties equally. In Indiana, you have a situation where the president had tried to pressure several Republican states, including Indiana, to do that mid-decade redistricting. The thing is, though, in this state, lawmakers pushed back. They said they don't have the votes to do it. Several Republicans in that state, like the 11 that you mentioned, spoke out saying they're not going to vote for it. The president then pressured them again a couple of weeks ago on November 16th, posting on social media, blasting several of them by name, including the governor, Republican Mike Braun, of that state. And last night, you actually had a situation where one of those lawmakers came out and revealed that he had a bomb threat take place last week after this post from President Trump. And so a couple of lawmakers there have expressed that they're not going to let this intimidation get to them. But I'll tell you that they already moved up their plans and they will take up redistricting, meeting next week to vote on these new proposed maps, something they were not going to do before the president issued that post.
And speaking of political violence, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer shared yesterday several of his New York offices have also been targets of threats. He said they faced bomb threats via email with a subject line, MAGA. How's he responding? Are other Democratic leaders facing similar threats?
Other Democratic leaders are facing these similar threats. We just talked about Republicans in Indiana. Well, now you also have Democrats in D.C., including Senator Alyssa Slotkin, Mark Kelly. Remember, they were part of the group of Democrats that posted that video a couple of weeks ago telling members of the military that it is okay to refuse illegal orders. That sparked a back and forth between them and the president, who called their behavior seditious, some Democrats thinking that he was calling for death threats against them. And now you have the case of Leader Chuck Schumer, the top Democrat in Congress. He said yesterday that he faced bomb threats at several of his New York offices. Take a listen to how he responded on the floor.
As I've said many times, these kinds of violent threats have absolutely no place in our political system. No one, no public servant, no staffer, no constituent, no citizen should ever be targeted for simply doing their job.
Now, Chuck Schumer, as member of leadership, already has a pretty big detail, officers following him around on Capitol Hill. I noticed, though, that Alyssa Slotkin and Mark Kelly, who are just rank-and-file members, now do, too. They have full-time Capitol Police officers trailing them all over the building in light of those threats that they have faced.
A sign of the times. All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you so much. Now to the latest on Luigi Mangione. The accused killer will be back in a Manhattan courtroom this morning for another day of pivotal hearings in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Lawyers for Mangione are trying to get several pieces of key evidence thrown out ahead of his state murder trial. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk is outside the courthouse where a crucial 911 call was heard publicly for the very first time yesterday. Steph, good morning.
Just about a year ago, employees and customers in a McDonald's in Pennsylvania found themselves at the center of a nationwide drama very quickly. In court, prosecutors played a 911 call that was made, as well as showed security footage inside the restaurant that morning, including the moment that Mangione was confronted by police. And he appears in the video to keep calmly eating and wiping his face as he's being questioned. Roughly a half an hour later, he was arrested for murder.
This morning, accused killer Luigi Mangione back in a Manhattan court, where his defense team will continue arguing to get critical pieces of evidence thrown out before the high-profile murder case is heard by a jury. On Monday, Mangione wearing civilian clothes during the hearing, while groups of supporters rallied outside the courthouse. The Ivy League grad was arrested in a Pennsylvania McDonald's nearly 1 year ago after a 5-day nationwide manhunt. At a pretrial hearing Monday, prosecutors played a 911 call placed by the restaurant manager publicly for the first time. The manager telling the operator customers thought Mangione looked suspicious, adding, "He looks like the CEO shooter in New York, and they are really upset." Among the evidence his attorneys are trying to have excluded everything discovered in his backpack in that McDonald's, a gun, bullets, and Mangione's alleged writings, including what prosecutors say was a plan to murder health insurance executive Brian Thompson, writing that someone should whack the CEO.
How damaging could these writings potentially be in a trial?
If these writings come in, this is like hearing from the defendant without them having to take the stand. It's their mindset leading up to the murder.
Mangione's defense arguing the backpack was illegally searched by police without a warrant, and there was a delay in reading his Miranda rights. But prosecutors counter the search was justified, in part because police were concerned for their safety. Also on Monday, a prison guard testified Mangione was under constant watch to prevent what he called an Epstein-style situation, apparently referring to convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein's suicide in federal custody. The guard said he also discussed health care coverage with Mangione, specifically the differences between private and universal care.
Mangione pleaded not guilty to this state case. He also pleaded not guilty in the federal case, which carries a possible death penalty. As for the hearing this week, it could last for days. Back to you.
All right, Steph, thank you. Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including Pope Leo's plea for peace in the Middle East as he wraps up his first trip to the embattled region in Lebanon today. His message to tens of thousands of followers there. First, after the break, security lines at America's airports could soon come with a cost. It might just pay to finally get that real ID before you hit the gates. That's next. Stick around. We are back with a friendly warning for those of you planning to fly next year. If you're among the nearly 6% of passengers not using a real ID to fly, that will soon cost you. The TSA is announcing a new $45 fee that goes into effect on February 1st of next year for travelers without those compliant IDs. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello covers aviation for us and has more on what's behind this new fee. Tom, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. So, we've all had to get our real IDs, right? That's been the rule for a long time, and essentially since May 1st, if you didn't have a real ID, then the TSA was kind of letting you squeak through, but you got a warning. Well, now the warnings are up, and the time is about to run out. If you don't have a real ID by February 1st, you're going to have to pay the price. All right. 20 years after Congress passed the Real ID law and 7 months after Real IDs were required at airports, the TSA says time is up.
You're good to go.
Starting on February 1st, if you don't have a Real ID, the TSA says a temporary pass at the airport will cost you $45 to fly domestically. That new non-refundable fee more than double the $18 payment the TSA recently announced, designed to cover additional technology and security costs.
We want to make sure that we know who is traveling, and we are exercising all options to make sure that the system is safe.
The TSA says the fee can be paid in advance, online, or in person at the airport, and will be valid for just 10 days if you're flying and don't have a Real ID. After that, travelers will have to pay yet again. All of it leading to enhanced security screening and some delays.
This process could take anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes.
Congress first approved stricter standards for issuing IDs back in 2005, based on recommendations from the 9/11 Commission. But implementation of Real IDs was delayed for years until last May.
That golden star is key.
Leading to a last-minute scramble, long lines, and scarce appointments at DMVs nationwide. Now the TSA says more than 94% of passengers are already using Real IDs or other acceptable forms of ID, like a passport or military ID. If you don't have one now, you've got 2 months until the new fee takes effect.
Travelers who haven't traveled in quite a while or haven't been able to get their ID upgraded to the Real ID compliant form are likely going to feel the burden of this $45 cost.
If you don't have a Real ID, you can still use a global entry card to go through TSA. You can also use a passport. If you have a Canadian driver's license or passport, that works. A U.S. military ID, a green card. If you don't have any of the above, you need to get your new driver's license or Real ID at your local DMV. Joe, back to you.
Tom, we'll keep reminding you. Thank you, Tom. Pope Leo is wrapping up his first trip to the Middle East since becoming pontiff. His visit ends in Lebanon, which has the largest share of Christians in the region. Earlier today, the pontiff delivered a mass to more than 100,000 Christians, issuing an urgent plea for peace in the region. NBC News international correspondent Molly Hunter is in the Lebanese capital of Beirut with more details from his trip. Molly, good morning.
Joe, good morning to you. We were there, huge crowds, and this was a big moment for the country, but also for the Pope, who found his diplomatic voice on this first international trip. He was also emotional at times. He spoke in multiple languages to multiple faiths. Take a look.
This morning, 150,000 people crowded onto Beirut's waterfront, a papal mass closing out Pope Leo's first international trip with great fanfare.
To you, Christians of the Levant, have courage. The whole church looks to you with affection and admiration.
23-year-old Rhea Malouf said it was unforgettable.
We were dreaming of a moment like this right now. Everybody from every region in Lebanon came today and we all prayed together.
5 years ago, this port was the site of a massive chemical explosion, killing more than 200 people. Part of Leo's mission here, bringing comfort to the victims, including Najwa Hayat. Her then 42-year-old daughter Lara was injured in the blast, left in a coma for the last 5 years.
It's so hard. Imagine 42, she's been in the hospital. Now she's going to be 48. She will be 48. It's so hard. I cannot believe that she has gone like this.
Even still, the Pope's visit brings hope. Last night, greeting 15,000 young people.
You have the enthusiasm to change the course of history.
And the first American Pope has met enthusiasm at every turn.
It feels different to see him here in Lebanon, in our country. You know, it just gives a sign of hope to everyone here. And it just feels like, oh, he's here, you know? It feels a bit unreal, but yeah, it's a very nice feeling.
So much energy. What a send-off for Pope Leo. And people we spoke with here really felt like he saw the best of this country and really energized all the young people. You heard some of them in our piece, Joe. Young people at a time who are both leaving this country. Young people are leaving this country, and Christians are also leaving this country at a time. So really important to just kind of get this energy to the next generation, Joe.
Yeah, and that energy, I think, is giving you a boost as well, Molly. That's incredible. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it. Coming up, some White House whiplash amid the Trump administration's controversial crackdown on alleged drug traffickers south of the border. The latest perplexing presidential pardon that's bringing a former leader of Honduras back into the global spotlight. He's now walking free after he was convicted of that same crime under President Biden. We're going to dig into the backlash next. We're back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with another legal loss for the Trump administration. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us once again with that and some other Washington headlines. Julie, good morning.
Hi again, Joe. We begin here in D.C., where a federal appeals court on Monday upheld a lower court decision that disqualified Alina Habba, you see her there, as acting U.S. attorney in New Jersey. Now, Habba was President Trump's personal lawyer before his administration placed her in that temporary position. The White House has done that with several lawyers around the country, managing to avoid Senate confirmation. But in Habba's case, a judge ruled that she had been serving without legal authority and must not participate in ongoing trials. And to the campaign trail, where there seems to be a new key wedge issue emerging: artificial intelligence. And it's not between the major political parties, but instead within them. On the right, MAGA influencers and populists are sounding the alarm on potential dangers of unrestricted AI development. And it comes as President Trump and his administration are pushing for minimal regulations to try and beat China on major advancements. Meanwhile, on the left, progressives are fighting against AI-fueled job losses and even more power for big tech, while center-left Democrats weigh major investments in their states and a need to stay competitive on the global stage. And finally, to the White House, where President Trump is issuing more pardons, commuting the 7-year sentence this time of former private equity CEO David Gentile, who President Biden's DOJ convicted back in 2024. Gentile was the CEO of GPB Capital, and he had just reported to prison in mid-November after he was sentenced in May on wire and security fraud charges. And that is a look at what is making news in politics this morning. Joe?
All right, Julie, thank you so much. We have another pardon story for you. As voters in Honduras wait to hear who won Sunday's presidential election, the country's embattled former leader is now walking free. President Trump pardoned the ex-Honduran president over the weekend after the Biden administration charged him with drug trafficking charges last year, and he was convicted. The move is sparking backlash because the Trump administration recently accused Venezuela's president of being one of the world's largest drug traffickers. NBC News correspondent George Solis explains.
The former president of Honduras, serving time in a U.S. prison, walking free after a pardon from President Donald Trump over the weekend. Juan Orlando Hernandez was serving a 45-year federal prison sentence after being convicted on drugs and weapons smuggling charges just last year. Word reaching his wife and adult children at their home in the country's capital.
Juan Orlando volverá, volverá.
On Truth Social, Mr. Trump saying Hernandez was treated very harshly and unfairly. On Sunday, defending the decision aboard Air Force One.
Well, I was asked by Honduras, many of the people of Honduras, they said it was a Biden setup. I don't mean Biden. Look, Biden didn't know he was alive, but it was the people that surround the Resolute desk, surround Biden when he was there, which was about very little time. And the people of Honduras really thought he was set up, and it was a terrible thing. He was the president of the country, and they basically said he was a drug dealer because he was the president of the country. And they said it was a Biden administration setup, and I looked at the facts and I agreed with them.
The pardon drawing harsh criticisms on both sides of the aisle as tensions continue to ramp up between the U.S. and Venezuela, specifically its leader, Nicolas Maduro, who Trump has accused of leading a drug cartel. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana posting on X, "Why would we want to pardon this guy and then go after Maduro for running drugs into the United States? Lock up every drug runner. Don't understand why he is being pardoned." Democratic Virginia Senator Tim Kaine had this to say on CBS's Face the Nation.
He was the leader of one of the largest criminal enterprises that has ever been subject to a conviction in U.S. courts. And less than 1 year into a sentence, President Trump is pardoning him, suggesting that President Trump cares nothing about narco trafficking.
The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York declining to comment, while one of Hernandez's attorneys saying, "A great injustice has been rightened, and we are so hopeful for the future partnership of the United States and Honduras." Hernandez had been appealing his conviction while serving time, and for years refuted allegations saying,
"Reitero mi rechazo total en nombre del pueblo hondureño al señalamiento que nuestro país es un narcoestado."
He was ultimately detained in 2022, appearing shackled and paraded before cameras, arrested in his home and then extradited to the U.S. to stand trial. The pardon promise comes on the same weekend millions of Hondurans went to the polls to elect their new president. George Solis, NBC News.
Coming up, a winter warning for those of us shelling out for holiday shopping this year, why you should start reading the fine print on some orders from overseas or face shipping surcharges that'll really have you saying, bah humbug. That's next on Morning News Now. We are back with concerning new research about the impact of smartphones on kids. Now, this study was published yesterday in the peer-reviewed journal Pediatrics. Here's what researchers found. Children who had a smartphone by 12 years old were at a higher risk of depression, of obesity, and of insufficient sleep. Researchers looked at the data from more than 10,000 children who participated in a study which focused on adolescent cognitive development. The message was clear. The earlier kids get their phones, the more they were linked with these health problems. For more on this, let's bring in Dr. Jenny Radeski. She is a board-certified developmental behavioral pediatrician. Did not work on this study, important to note, but is helping us understand it better. Doctor, good to have you with us. These results come from the largest ever long-term study that's looking at children's brain development in the U.S. Just go through it with us. What are the big takeaways about the impact that smartphones are having on kids?
Yeah, I'm really grateful for this study because it helps us give clearer guidance to families about the best timing for a smartphone. The biggest takeaway I have is that middle school is a really tricky developmental time to get a fully loaded smartphone. And here's why. When you are a middle schooler, 11, 12, 13, you really care about connecting with your peers. You don't really have full impulse control yet. You might be more engaged in risk-taking. And so if you have a phone with easy access to games, social media, and now AI, that can introduce risks that kids don't need. So my advice is, if you've already gotten your kid a phone and they're already 12, go back through, do an inventory, set up some parental controls so that you can minimize some of those risks.
Let's talk more about those risks I mentioned. Depression, obesity, poor sleep. These are big deals that can have a big impact on kids' development, right?
Yes. I mean, if you think about it, if your sleep, your body movement, your mood regulation through the day, this just affects how you go through your day and how you interact with life. How do you handle school? How do you handle a limit that is set by your parents? How do you handle a little bit of rejection from your peers? These are all normative friction that kids actually need to grow and develop, but you are much more irritable and much more less likely to tolerate those little bits of friction if you are exhausted, unfocused, and you kind of overreact with your mood to every little thing that happens.
We know kids need a lot of sleep. So this study did point to this Pew Research Center data showing 95% of teens between the ages of 13 and 17 now own a smartphone. But we know this is not clear-cut for parents. So let's talk about the flip side of this. Having a phone can make you feel safer, can make you feel more connected with your friends. Was that taken into account in all this? How much do we take that into account?
So they weren't able to measure those benefits of having a smart device. And these are the number 1 and 2 reasons that we hear from parents about why they get their kids a smartphone. They want them to be able to connect with friends, and they want to be able to feel like they can contact them when they need to. So it's about logistics and pickups and knowing how they're doing if they're at their other parent's house or grandma's house. So, however, you only need your texting, your talking, maybe maps, maybe FaceTime, or other video chat to have those benefits. You don't even need an internet connection. You definitely don't need social media. So my advice is, if you're thinking of getting your middle schooler or your high schooler a smartphone, or even your elementary schooler, make it boring. Make it just those ways that they keep in touch with people. And if they're super eager for a smartphone, they will agree to that. they will be like, okay, I'll just take the boring phone and then we'll work our way up as I show that I'm more responsible.
Boring phones, use your creativity someplace else. I mean, bouncing on that, you mentioned how young these kids are. Study found the median age at which young people got their first smartphone was 11. That just blows my mind. So as we've been discussing, I mean, parents are agonizing over when to relent to the pressure, give kids their phones. Is there a clear answer about when to do it?
Well, the evidence is mounting that it's probably better to wait a little longer. However, if you are a parent who needs to get your kid a phone so you can be in touch, like I said, if you're across different households, you need to coordinate pickups, see if your carrier has a flip phone or some sort of starter phone. Those can sometimes come with extra costs, those starter phones. So if you want to give them a hand-me-down smartphone because that's what's in your budget this month, just make it boring. Lock it down so all they can do is talk and text and use their maps.
I had an iPhone 7 for the longest time, which basically did nothing by the time I was done using it. So if someone wants to borrow it, they can have it. All right. Dr. Jenny Radesky, important conversation. Appreciate having you on to break it all down for us. Let's get to the latest on Wall Street this morning. Prada is sealing a first-class deal worth some big-time bucks. NBC's Emily Lorsch joins us with our Money Minute headlines. Emily, good morning.
Hey, Joe, that's right. A major shakeup today in high fashion. Prada has officially taken over its longtime rival Versace in a $1.5 billion deal, a move Prada has pursued for years. Versace needs a revival after weaker post-pandemic performance under Capri Holdings. Now it joins Prada and Miu Miu under one luxury group. The son of Prada's owners, Lorenzo Bertelli, will lead Versace's next phase as executive chairman. And a high-profile courtroom battle delivered a decisive moment for Megan Thee Stallion. A federal jury ruled that a blogger defamed and harassed the rapper in posts tied to a 2020 incident in which Megan was shot by Canadian rapper Tory Lanez, who was sentenced to up to 10 years behind bars. Megan says she's been struggling with her mental health since the shooting and harassment from this blogger. Jurors awarded Megan $75,000 in damages, which could change in the final written judgment. And this week is an exciting time for gamers. The Nintendo Switch 2 got its first ever discount during Cyber Monday. Major retailers knocked $50 off the price of the Mario Kart World Bundle of that new console, bringing it down to just under $450, effectively giving buyers the $80 game for free. It's a rare deal on a brand new console with exclusive titles rolling out, including just this week, the next game, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, is expected to hit stores. Now, Joe, I have to admit I haven't played any Nintendo games in a long time, but I was obsessed with Mario Kart. Okay. Had to be Peach all the time. I would steal it from my brother. Okay. Of course. What girl didn't want to be princess?
I just remember the first Metroid, which is a long time ago, but I remember loving the first Metroid. I wasn't very good at it, but I like playing it. Emily, good to have you with us. Thank you. Sticking with consumer news, if you're doing a lot of online shopping for the holidays, you could get stuck paying import fees to get your order. They've been catching some consumers off guard after the rules changed this summer for millions of products coming into the U.S. NBC News chief consumer investigative correspondent, News Now anchor Vicki Nguyen, has the details on that. Vicki, good morning.
Hey there were some big changes to fees on imported products that started in August, and consumers, many of them are just learning about it now. Before, any packages valued at $800 or less could enter the U.S. duty-free. Well, that exemption has ended, and consumers are now getting bills, sometimes for hundreds of dollars. So here's what you need to know before placing your next online shopping order. This holiday season, ho, 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 turning into no, no, no.
Do not buy, not even a bobby pin, unless you know where something is shipping from.
People expecting packages getting hit with steep customs bills.
I was very shocked when it showed up and the delivery driver was like, this is going to be $657 to collect your package.
Bonnie Hardy Campagno ordered $431 worth of French skincare in August. She thought she'd get a 15% charge. That's the tariff on many products from the EU. Instead, she was hit with a 200% fee for aluminum and a 50% tariff for steel.
Does that make any sense to you? No, it does not make any sense.
John Pickle from the National Foreign Trade Council says there are many things that go into a tariff bill.
It's where it comes from, what it's made out of, and what the finished product is classified as.
Consumers say everything from computers to rugs to vitamins have landed them tariff bills. passed along by delivery companies that tack on their own fees. Bonnie refused her package and reached out to the company that delivered it, UPS, for clarification.
In the call centers, you're on hold for at least like 30 minutes to an hour.
It's been months, and Bonnie is still waiting for answers. She was hit with a $65 late fee and says she was threatened with her bill being sent to collections. When we reached out to UPS, they said in part that their brokers are highly trained and use sophisticated technology to ensure accuracy in calculating the appropriate duty and fees due. Adding, if you feel there's an error, contact the number on your billing invoice.
How can consumers avoid these bills when they're shopping this holiday?
If you are ordering overseas, search for that item elsewhere to see if they have a U.S. warehouse, another retailer. But if you must have that item and it's only available overseas, read the fine print, especially at checkout.
As you are shopping online this season, retail experts say look out for delivery duty paid, or DDP. That means everything will be included in the final price of the item that you pay. Also, check for the website to see if they talk about tariffs, taxes, shipping fees, or any other charges. And it definitely doesn't hurt to reach out to the company for more details. Keep a record of everyone you speak to. Back to you.
Good advice, Vicki. Thank you so much. It is Giving Tuesday, a global movement launched in 2012 to build a world where generosity is just part of everyday life. So this morning, we're talking to someone who's using his skill, his platform, and his story to help others. Devon Rodriguez is the most followed visual artist in the world with tens of millions of followers on social media. Now he's committed to his first major charity partnership with the nonprofit Smile Train to give back to children who face hardship and limited opportunities. And we are excited to have Devon Rodriguez in studio with us. Good to have you with us. I know we've profiled you in years before. Most people know who you are, but for those who don't, before we talk about Smile Train, just want to remind people, you're the subway artist. You've created these viral videos creating portraits of people on the subway. You are from the Bronx, and you've overcome a lot of hardship to get where you are. Remind people about your story and just how the obstacles you've faced in your life have shaped you and brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I grew up in the South Bronx in poverty, under abuse and bad situations, and my platform saved my life and changed my life so much. So I like to use it to give back to people. So I went over to Medellin with Smile Train, one of the most incredible organizations, the biggest one on cleft care, and it was incredible. It was a beautiful trip.
Why did you decide to partner with Smile Train? What was it about that organization that really clicked with you?
So I learned that every 3 minutes, a child is born with cleft, and they don't have the appropriate funding. And Smile Train is one of the biggest organizations. And, I love to make people smile on the train. So I thought it was a great partnership, and yeah, it was a beautiful trip. It changed my life. We were in the hospitals and meeting the surgeons, the psychologists, and the children, and it was an amazing experience.
For those who don't know, Smile Train helps children who have cleft lip with surgeries that help repair those and make those changes. So it really does feel like a perfect union because you do portraits, and it's all about making sure someone's smile just really shines through, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And since 1999, they've funded over 2 million surgeries around the world. And so for me to be such a small part of that was an honor.
I know you met so many people there who had an impact on you, but I think there's a few stories in particular that really stand out. Emmanuel was one.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So Emmanuel was this kid that he had a cleft palate, and he grew up not having confidence and getting bullied. And, with Smile Train's funding, he was able to live such a beautiful life. And we met so many other children that, we met the parents, and they told us about, we went into their homes, and they just told us about how if it wasn't for Smile Train, they wouldn't be able to do the things that, they could do today.
And with Emmanuel, he's like you. He loves art, and so you had that commonality, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
He actually reminded me of myself. I remember watching him speak in his house. I wanted to cry. My eyes were so watery because he reminded me of myself. He was saying, I want to be this famous artist when I grow up. I have all the confidence in the world now, and I'm gonna do it. And even I remember his mom saying be a little bit more humble. He's like, no, I'm going to be great. So that was like a beautiful experience.
But I bet meeting you was a pretty cool experience for him.
Yeah, I hope so. But yeah, it was beautiful. We went in the actual homes of people, and it was amazing.
And doing the portraits of these kids, I mean, what was it like drawing them?
It was amazing, like to make them smile and to make them so happy. And, you know, for me, sometimes I forget how drawings just amaze children, you know what I mean? Like, and I was sitting with all these kids, and it was like portrait after portrait. Once I finished one, the next one was like, okay, do mine. So I was sitting there for hours doing all these portraits, but it was so fun. Everybody was so happy. Their mothers were telling me about how they're going to just keep these portraits on their walls forever.
Incredible gift. Real quickly, if people want to help Smile Train, what do they need to know?
Oh, yeah, so it's Giving Tuesday, so please donate to Smile Train at smiletrain.org/giving.
All right, very good. Devon Rodriguez, awesome. Thank you for coming on to share your experience and being part of this. It's an awesome story. Good to have you.
Thank you so much.
Coming up, it's a holiday makeover, decades in the making. When Morning News Now returns, the Golden Glow Up, bringing a little extra shine to a 30 Rock icon just in time for its neighbor's big Christmas time debut. I'm going to explain next. Let's end this hour with a holiday glow-up. An icon right here at Rockefeller Center, after years of wear and tear, is getting a much-needed facelift worth its weight in gold.
At the foot of Rock Center's famous Christmas tree, right next to the iconic ice rink, you'll find fire. A statue of Prometheus, the Greek titan known for giving humans fire. He's glowing after a makeover decades in the making.
What will Prometheus look like when this is all said and done?
It'll look like he's been dunked in gold.
Mark Roussel, the project's principal conservator, is part of the crew painstakingly contorting to re-gild every nook and cranny using feather-like strips of gold.
There you go.
They're applying about 20,000 of these ultra-slender sheets.
We pick it up with a brush and we apply it like that.
With the price of gold skyrocketing, Prometheus's new coat costs more than $40,000. The sculpture, created in 1934 by Paul Manship, gets a shiny new shell every 25 years.
We're keeping the intent of the artist's original vision for this statue.
Bill Gauthier is a master gilder with decades of experience. He knows this golden Greek is an icon who photobombs countless pictures.
Which makes it even more important for me to work on it because I'm a native New Yorker.
No pressure.
Yeah. No, I had to bring my A game to this.
All right, go for it.
With the final sheet added, they've now removed the scaffolding just in time to light the tree towering overhead, truly making the season bright.
And that tree lighting is tomorrow night. That'll do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.